Fleet Street, where all my ambitions as a reporter once lay, but now to belong to my memories. On Doctor's advice, I had to leave it to make a new bracing and fresher air of the Kent coast. I took new life, still as a reporter, but to a world where the sea and not city smoke dominated. Ramsgate was my destination, and I had the choice of many trains, for Ramsgate, only 72 miles from London, is well served by 4 main London stations. Soon I found myself outside the Spick and Span station. The Inquiry Bureau, a smart modern office, was right opposite the station, the best vantage point for a stranger to Ramsgate. My new offices were in a more friendly street than Fleet Street, and one day my stories might be billed outside. The editor wasted no time. After a cheerful welcome, he sent me on my first assignment. Go and find out about Ramsgate for yourself, he said, and write the story. Well, I started at the Royal Harbour. The harbour is the heart of Ramsgate. From the sun deck on the East Pier I was shipping. The lighthouse sends its rays out to those sailing near the Goodwin Sands, and I was able to look back at the town and see my new home spread before me. From above the East Pier of the harbour, I gazed back over the main beach, where in the distance stood the churches, hotels, boarding houses, restaurants, shops and theatres, and all that makes Ramsgate a focal point for discerning holidaymakers. I strolled along the eastern promenade, and there below me was the famous bathing pool of Ramsgate, the marina, glistening in the sun. There was the high board, and the shallow end, specially for children. I made my way along the promenade, which was superbly laid out with well-tended plants, down the steps of the Winterstoke Chine. Here I asked my way to the marina entrance. Now down to the main beach. Sheltered by the cliffs, it's a sun trap facing south, and a paradise for children with soft sand, and where the family can relax together, enjoying health-giving rest. Home that evening through beautiful Ellington Park, a lovely retreat in the town, delightfully laid out. Ramsgate is a town of enterprise, and residents and holidaymakers alike join in the fun. Gaiety is personified in its streets and buildings. Even the harbour clock house forgets its sombre work of the daytime and puts on a gay front at night. Both young and old enjoy Ramsgate's lights. If anyone ever uses the phrase, "It's a small world" to me again, I shall always remember Ramsgate's model village. Then down below the St. Lawrence cliffs to talk to more holidaymakers, young and old, on the wonderful bathing beach there. Ramsgate is a resort where the children bring their parents. The next morning saw us boarding the Queen of the Channel for our no-passport trip to Calais. Ramsgate is only 29 miles from the French coast, and this ship runs regular trips across the Channel during the summer. Back at my boarding house, after seeing Calais, my story was growing fast. My kindly landlady, like all in Ramsgate, went out of her way to make me feel at home and to help me with my story. No need to type in your room, she had said. Use the parlour. I'd certainly found a home from home. It was she who suggested I visited the ice show at the Granville Theatre. It was a splendid idea, for Ramsgate specialises in first-class summer shows, with up-to-date dance halls, old-time dancing and cinemas. So to the Granville Theatre on the following morning. I made my way round to the stage door to meet some of the brilliant artists of the record-breaking Carnival on Ice show. They were rehearsing, for they had 3 changes of programme. Mr. Barber told me where I could find the comedienne, Lucille Gay. Ever tried to cross ice without skates? It was not a good start to my interview with the tallest girl in show business, but Lucille soon put me at ease. She gave me a good story, too, for she's been a favourite at Ramsgate for 3 years now. Then Sally and Stephanie gave me their Ramsgate stories, but they both talked at once. Past the Albion Gardens on my way back to lunch, I stopped to admire the Madeira Walk waterfall, a delightful spot. The landscape garden work of this kind in Ramsgate is always perfect. That evening, the carnival procession through the streets took place. This is the climax of the Ramsgate holiday season, and the streets were thronged with people to watch this brilliantly organized event. So I duly recorded my lot for my Ramsgate story. Tomorrow it would go to press, if, of course, the editor liked it. My story had made front-page news in the East Kent Times. I felt very proud. This spot by the Royal Victoria Pavilion, another popular centre of entertainment, I shall always remember with affection, for it was here I first saw my story for Ramsgate in print. But I was also grateful to my landlady, who had been so generous in making me, a stranger, feel that I belonged to Ramsgate. Why don't you see Ramsgate for yourself? Write for the brochure now. Here's the address. Publicity Officer, Information Bureau, Ramsgate.
Destination Margate, Belle of Kent, situated on the flat, fertile land of the Isle of Thanet. A town where the old dwell side by side with the new. Today, many wonderful examples of varied kinds of architecture can be seen in the neighbourhood of Hawley Green and Hawley Square. Apart from a holiday resort, Margate is quite an important port. The harbour is the centre for quite a fair amount of riverborne traffic. Those who come here place great store on the words of the poet Inglesby, who said, "You should go down to Margate to look at the ships or take what the bathing room people call dips." Besides having wonderful beaches, Minnis Bay and lovely old world Birchington are still content to rely upon natural, unspoiled charm. Westbrook is virtually a children's paradise with playgrounds, roundabout swings and safe sea bathing. There's very little in life more wonderful than to see the happy, untroubled faces of children enjoying themselves. And along the promenade at Westbrook, bigger mounts are ridden against a background of flower-filled gardens and grassy-topped, flower-trimmed cliffs. Palm Bay Cliftonville has a sun-deck restaurant built over the beach and sea. The popularity of this amenity can be gauged by the vast number of people who patronize it. Alternatively, visitors sit under gay parasols in the hot sunshine, giving point to the name Continental Cliftonville, which the resort is often called. The ever-popular Oval is another Cliftonville corner for relaxation. Whilst at the Lido, entertainment of diversified types is always on tap, catering for every possible taste. Here can be found the magnificent seawater tidal bathing pool, and though swimming is the order of the day in all pools, the wonderful surroundings, sun, sea and air make the Lido an attraction with a difference. Another difference is the bathing beauty competition regularly staged here. There is never any lack of feminine beauty. The main difficulty is always to select the winner. Which little number do you think should take the trophy? The little number I refer to, of course, is held in the lady's left hand. A little poise from number 23 goes a long way, maybe. I think English audiences are marvellous. I love you all. Well, she certainly cuts a good figure and actually was one of the winners. In this part of Kent, a bay a day is the natural order of things. Walpole Bay is another delightful retreat of soft golden sands and blue seas. Several times every week from the end of Margate Pier, a ship leaves for France, and a day abroad gives spice to the visitor's vacation. This is Dane Park, in which many a restful hour can be spent amongst the flowers and well-kept lawns. With 33 acres of winding walks, rock gardens and lakes, it's one of the finest examples of its kind. North Dean Park too has much to offer with its lily ponds, walks and floral displays. Kent is known as the Garden of England, and Margate does its part in no small measure to contribute to the full its quota of beauty. With 20 acres of holiday fun, Dreamland Margate caters for the most exacting taste in thrills. And though the rides are not everyone's idea of relaxation, they have been captured by the camera, so let's sit back and watch others enjoying themselves in their own particular fashion. They must be enjoying themselves, otherwise I'm sure they would think of other things to do. And in what better way could we end our film than at the firework display with its set pieces and atmosphere of continental fun and gaiety. Our film must have brought back memories for some, and for others made them determined one day soon to visit Margate, Belle of Kent.
This is just one of the many scenes you are likely to see if you come to Broadstairs on the Kentish coast, a place where history meets the sunny sands. Viking Bay, situated beneath the main promenade, is the centre point of 7 sandy bays, 4.5 miles of Broadstairs. Each bay has its own individual atmosphere. This is Stone Bay. You can spend a quiet hour or two at Dumpton Bay, looking for shellfish. Or have hectic moments in spacious Joss Bay, where masses of warm golden sands are particularly ideal for youngsters. Here in sandy bays, they can play to their heart's content. Gently now. I do hope you'll get out all right. A little further along the coastline, Botany Bay is particularly picturesque and very photogenic. Whether you're a professional or amateur, oh dear, Father will be pleased. The great thing about Broadstairs is that there's always plenty going on for everyone. Swimming, boating, racing, donkey riding, or just watching Punch and Judy. It's all here, and plenty more coming up. It's great to be young, but it's still great to be a little older. If all you want to do is sit and enjoy the wonderful air, there are plenty of places to do it. After all, Broadstairs is situated in what is probably one of the healthiest corners to be found in the whole of Great Britain. Could wish to look much healthier than this. If you like exercise, though, then there's plenty of activities going on for you to join in. Feeling a bit breathless? Right, let's take a gentle ride along to the horse show. Every year, a gymkhana and horse show is held, providing great interest to lovers of horses and horsemanship. Perhaps your interest lies in indoor entertainment, in which case, again, you'll certainly find something going on to your liking, from dancing of all kinds to some good-humoured family entertainment. That lobster makes my mouth water. Afterwards, if you want to walk it off, there are many pleasant and invigorating walks to be enjoyed. Through the gardens, for example, which overlook the sea. Or a quiet evening stroll to the attractive old village of St. Peter's. Within easy walking distance is Kingsgate, with its fine lighthouse, guiding shipping past the Goodwin Sands. Kingsgate is reputed to have derived its name from the landing there in 1683 of King Charles II. With its wonderfully healthy atmosphere, Broadstairs, in addition to being a holiday resort, is fast becoming more residential. Fine houses, bungalows and flats. Light industries too are springing up to take the influx of people choosing to live and work here. The main shopping centre has something of everything, and you'll find all you need, whether you're a resident or a holidaymaker. The quaint side streets are very rewarding to those in search of novelty in their shopping. Charles Dickens spent much of his time in Broadstairs, and there are many reminders of the novelist to be found. High on the cliffs, Bleak House overlooks the sea, and Dickens' house also commands a fine position. Not unnaturally, the town is very proud of its connections with this great man, and for a whole week, once a year, a Dickens festival is staged. Attracting people from home and abroad, this is the only annual Dickens festival held in Europe. Connections with the past, Broadstairs remembers well, but it also believes in keeping up with modern trends, providing fun and laughter to its residents and summer holidaymakers. So if you feel like taking a holiday where there is always a little of everything, where you'll want to come back again and again, why don't you be like us? Take one.
At Broadstairs, of course.
The amusements are situated along the sea front, and for almost half a mile there's fun, excitement and laughter for all, from the dolphins in training to the more traditional fun of the fair at Pleasurama. If you have an urge to go to the dogs, well, you can do so here if you wish. The well-organized racetrack, with several evening meetings a week, is well worth a visit and could be an exciting change. That is, if you back a winner. You never know, it might be enough for a trip across the channel. But not in this. The Viking ship Hugin makes a pretty picture where it rests on the cliff top above the international hoverport at Pegwell Bay. A contrast between the way people used to arrive here and the way they do now. Hover travel is one of the latest and unique means of transport. Over 250 passengers and 30 cars can be whisked across the English Channel in these giant craft in 40 minutes. This is one of the century's great adventures.
quaint and old-fashioned.
It's oldie world charm. It's clean and the fresh air and blue sky. It's beautiful, yeah.
You know there are two Dickens museums in Broadstairs. There's Dickens House and Bleak House. Which would you go to if you had the choice?
I don't. Which one would you go to, Courtney? The Bleak House, the one on the hill?
Bleak House, it's more exciting looking.
I know, it does look more exciting.
Bleak House is not your average home.
In this house, he wrote and formed his most famous books. Upstairs in a minute, you will see the room where he wrote his books. And you will see why he got such inspiration. When you get up there, look at the view. Climb up to where the chair is placed and look at the view. It's spectacular. But I think if you sat there, you would get inspiration to write a book.
Well, we bought it about 18 years ago. It was in a very, very run-down condition. It was a very small museum in a very, very bad state. Very little open to the public. So it was a challenge. The first thing my husband did was to do the smuggling cellars, bring our local history back. We felt it was very, very important to have something exciting for children. And so the smuggling museum really was designed specifically for children, but we find adults love it just as much. We've built up our business a great deal with students from foreign language schools, and I have my regular schools come year after year after year, the foreign language schools, and also we have a lot of junior schools come doing their project work. So I've built up a lot of business with them, probably more with them than anybody else.
But for the rich, life was wonderful. Women had no rights, whether they were rich or poor, but a rich woman had a better standard of living. She would have maids and be well looked after, and her children would be taught at home. But life was very, very different in the Victorian days.
Well, the Broadstairs Pavilion has been here quite some time. It was built in 1933 and it was run by the councils, various councils, right up until 6 years ago, when under the privatisation programme it was let out, and at that time I took over ownership of it. It was a very popular venue. It was used for the band concerts, meetings, dancing, up until the war, and after the war it was even more popular during the heyday of the British holiday, during the late 40s, 50s. And I understand from people in the town, to get a ticket to see one of the shows you had to buy it a week ahead, which is saying something. Well, I think I'm like all dreamers, you know. When I took over the place I thought, oh, a theatre, how nice, you know, I've been having shows here. It never took me long to realise, and in fact it was a lost leader. Our first season here we got some has-beens, I suppose is the use of the better word. We had Ruby Murray down for a few weeks, we had Charlie Chester, and they didn't pull the punters in. Nobody wanted to see them. So after some expensive payouts to these people, I decided there was no future.
So you couldn't run it as a theatre?
No. I don't think there's a theatre outside the West End makes money.
What makes the money for you then?
That makes the money is the ice creams, teas, cappuccinos and food. But I'm not just selling a cup of tea. We're selling a seat on the balcony here with sea views. You can sit there as long as you like.
My great-grandfather began the business in 1886, and he came from Switzerland. Why he came to Broadstairs we don't know. He handed it on to his daughter handed it on to my mother, and my mother has handed it on down to us. So here we are, still in 1995, carrying it on. So 110 years next July.
Well, we were attracted first to the place because of the folk festival, and we liked the look of this hotel and its balcony. And once we got in it, we found it was a very friendly place and not overpriced. And so we like it. The service is very good, and the food is excellent.
So to the really interesting part of the business, the bar, which previously was the lodging house in Victorian times. And as I think you can probably see, not much has changed in terms of decor or customer. A fascinating bunch they are. Morning, Mr. Gale.
Margate, just along the coast, was one of Britain's first holiday resorts.
The wonderful surroundings, sun, sea and air, make the Lido an attraction with a difference.
Here we are in the height of the summer holidays. There were no families to be seen, no children to be seen, and it is what might have been, and in fact what used to be. And it used to be bustling around here, thousands of people would be enjoying themselves in the sunshine. And now, I mean, how many people are there around here? If we see a dozen, we're lucky, and it's the middle of August. And one of the problems is what has happened to our hotels, in that hoteliers have not been able to make a living, however hard they've tried, so they've had to look for alternative uses. Now the obvious ones, and then these people were very desperate for a quick fix. They had to find something else to take the place of the tourists who weren't coming. Now they turned some to care homes, others took bed and breakfast accommodation. Now both were a short-term cure perhaps for their financial problems, but of course the knock-on effect for the tourist area was devastating. If you're running your nice little hotel and you've got a DSS property one side and all people's home on the other, it does not give the ambience that people seek when they come on a holiday. So you are really replacing one problem with another. And this is a problem which is not getting easier, it is getting worse.
I strolled along the eastern promenade, and there below me was the famous bathing pool of Ramsgate, the marina, glistening in the sun.
This building here is what's left of the marina swimming pool complex. You'd pay for your ticket at a kiosk there and go down into the changing rooms. You'd be able to see your friends and that on the seats through the windows. There'd be a large pool, a small sort of sunbathing area on that side. This actual area itself that I'm standing on would be the balcony cafe. And also there would be a cafe actually below us, but it would be teeming with people all season and very much a sort of football stadium atmosphere.
The decline in tourism has had a devastating impact on Thanet. Boarded up businesses are a common sight. Unemployment is running at 15% and higher.
Maybe the youngsters are more prepared to actually move away up to different parts of London, just outside London, other parts of the countries where you can get jobs. That's where the work is, that's where the money is.
Do you think Broadstairs is in a better position than Margate and Ramsgate?
Yes. Yes, it is cocooned because it is almost like a theme park, isn't it? Or certain people in Broadstairs would like to think it is. Yeah, they are cocooned because they like to think they're a little bit different, they like to think they're a little more genteel, because yes, Broadstairs is a little special, but not too special, I don't think.
it's just really the dead end of England.
Do you want to move away?
Well, if I'm looking for a decent job, then I've got no choice but to, really. Or travel, at least. Do you know what I mean? Because there's no jobs down here. The only way you're going to get a decent job down here, that's a lucky break.
You know, Mum's sitting there watching the telly. That's her mum knows me. That's her nickname. Still know that geezer at Butterworth's and does that crumble?
And most of the people you know, your friends, start taking drugs?
Oh yeah. Most of them, there's about 70% down here take drugs.
I mean, because there's nothing else to do. You've got to have money to survive. And if there's no jobs, you can't live on £37 a week or whatever it is off the social. You've got to go out and you've got to, you know, find a little sideline here and there, like get a bit of money behind it.
Have you got friends, know people who've ended up in prison?
Yeah, my brother's been in prison loads of times, like all sorts of different things. It's a way of life down here.
How do you see the future for this area and people living?
Well, if something isn't done about it, quick.
It's going to just go downhill. We're going to have riots or worse.
It's probably just going to be one of the futuristic prisons where they're going to outlaw Thanet and just put all the bad people on it. And just keep them in that, you know what I mean? And then the rest of England's going to be like the old upper class and middle class and things like that, just the people that just don't touch anything. And, do you know what I mean? But Thanet's just going to be the prison of England, isn't it?
It was a thoroughly busy hotel. We started with a 20-week season. We built it up and built it up. In 1991-2, we had 40 weeks of business, which is a lot of money.
When did things start to change?
Probably 5 years before, the late 80s, we noticed that DSS were coming into this area. We actually asked for a meeting with the council. I think I was the chairman of the hoteliers at that time, and they absolutely said there was no problem with DSS in this area at all. It was well under control. There was something like 17 establishments taking it, and they knew all about it and was never going to worry the hotel business.
What happened?
Well, the DSS encroached more and more into the area. It became very noticeable eventually. We had a long-term coach contract with a company up north who used to bring us 12 weeks business a year. And the question was, Michael, how close is the nearest DSS hostel to you? On the telephone. And I said, oh, I lied. A couple of streets away, you know, really. Actually, it was there. And he said, well, I've had reports and I'm going to pop down to see you. So he came, spot visit. There were people standing on the ramparts, urinating on the passers-by, and business disappeared. So we made quite a horrendous decision. We wrote to the council asking for help. We got nice letters back, of course, which came to no avail. So I wrote to them in May and said that I was registering as a hostel, not a hotel. They kindly actioned that, which they did, saved me at least the business rates. And we started to trade as a DSS place. Down here ever since.
I worked in McDonald's. It's somewhere to live. Basically, that's what it is, somewhere to live. And I'm grateful for that.
How difficult is it to, you know, to make ends meet on that?
Very difficult. Very difficult. Especially when you've got a child who's growing up so fast. A child needs individual attention from his mum and his dad. He's not getting that properly in a place like this. You just take a walk round. The amount of empty and derelict buildings, do them up. Give someone a chance, because that's all you need in life is a chance.
I mean, when I first arrived here, over 20 years ago, as a young candidate for Parliament, the scene was that of crumbling coal mines, a fishing port which really wasn't earning its living satisfactorily, and railway workshops in Ramsgate, which again seem to be in decline. Today, there's been quite an improvement on that. The economy is much more broadly based, and the economy, I think, is picking up. But this is still a low-wage area. It's still, relatively speaking, a high unemployment area.
If we can get a few more key investors in the area, we can get a significant number of people back into work. Once they get money in their pocket, they start spending in the local shops, and the local shops start to flourish again. Once that happens, you start to see a building effect where people start to renovate their properties and the whole area starts to tidy up, and people can start paying their council tax again and all the other things, and the council's revenue position starts to improve. Then the council's got more money to spend. We can spend it on tidying up the island, on improving tourism.
The tragedy is we've lived under a Tory government for as long as many people can remember, and what they've offered us is the market and the misery that comes with it. With Blair now leading the Labour Party, all that's on offer is more of the market and more of the misery. You can see the evidence of the free market wherever you walk in Thanet, the dereliction, the wasted human lives, you know, the unemployment. You can just see it reeks of the market. The market's been let rip, and it's ripped.
But I think the future over the next 20 years is going to be very bright. I think this is going to be a very prosperous community, and a very pleasant community to live, and it's going to build on what's best about Thanet, which are the positive aspects of the people who live here.
And the business parks, are they actually filling up with lots of companies, do you think?
Well, put it this way, businesses are not flocking to the business park, or the business parks. You're asking what has moved on to them, that'd be hard pushed.
It's going ahead, it's slow. We've been in office now almost 4 years, and truthfully, I would have expected that we would have been more ahead than we are. But it is difficult to encourage companies to come and locate here.
What makes the difficulties then?
I'm not sure.
New Labour also promised to breathe new life into the derelict Ramsgate seafront with Amazonia.
Amazonia is going to be a leisure retailing complex where the retailing elements are designer outlets, and the leisure element is a scheme called Amazonia, which is a sort of a team game where you interact with computers and where you have to try and find a lost aeroplane in a jungle which will be growing in a glazed building. We've also got some major leisure attractions in the planning. For example, the old Pleasure Armour building, which burned down whilst we were renovating the seafront. That is going to be completely rebuilt. It's going to be still going to have a retail designer outlet village in the basement, but it's also going to have a multiplex cinema, a nightclub, bowling alley, and other attractions over the top of it. Hopefully building on that will start in February next year. That's the developer's intention.
2 years later, the attractions have still to appear.
The plans are that Wiggins, who will take over the airport completely on the 1st of April, plan to have 300,000 passengers a year flying in and out of Manston by the year 2002. Their target for the year 2005/6 is 1.6 million. That plus any cargo facilities that they might attract there, I think does offer terrific prospects for us.
I'm astounded to hear what Wiggins believe they can achieve in terms of passengers by 2002. 300,000 passengers a year, I just don't know where they're going to get them from. Perhaps they're going to pay for them to travel through Manston, but that's the only way I can see them doing it.
I liken Thanet to a great big bonfire. It's all there now, it's all geared up, we've got everything in place, we're just waiting. There's a little glimmer at the bottom, We now need somebody to come and really set it going, and it will start, and once it goes, then we'll be like a snowball, you know. Everybody wants to go with their success, doesn't they?
I want to ask you about the way the council links itself with the businessmen in the area. Frank Thorley and Jimmy Godden are the main sort of investors and the main business people. Do you think that's wise?
Wise or not, it's certainly the modern way of doing business.
They will accept any promise, no matter how bizarre. We've had towers on the beach, we've had glass-fronted holiday seafront miles of, we've had retail parks, we've had goodness knows what. We've had such dodgy companies occasionally coming forward that one glance at the glossy brochure, you wouldn't buy double glazing from them, and yet these have been considered earnestly. Sometimes one thinks that if we were offered Sellafield, certain people on the council would say, yes, we'll take that because there might be a job. If it's warehousing, yes, the fact may be there'll only be a caretaker and a dog, but still people think, yes, it might bring jobs.
We have 1,000 new jobs being created at Pfizer over the next couple of years. Now, those people, a lot of them will not be local people. There'll be people brought in from elsewhere in the UK to work there. If we don't have any homes for them to live in, they'll go and live in Canterbury or Ashford or in the villages around the area.
Well, that is the danger of it, that if you are really trying to promote Thanet as a holiday resort, how can you then balance that with building billions and billions of new houses and taking up all the seafront with housing estates? Because nobody's going to want to come and visit a load of housing estates for a holiday.
Don't you feel a bit sad seeing sort of green spaces being built over though? How do you feel about that?
How do I feel about that? I think to a large extent it's progress.
Do you think it might lead to racism in Thanet?
No, I wouldn't think so, no. I think we're fortunate that that isn't a problem that we have here, and it never was when we had the Ethiopians and the others here. So no, I wouldn't expect so.
What are you demonstrating about?
Asylum seekers to go back to their own country.
Yeah.
Well, I feel that they've been here long enough, the war's over. Can't they go back and rebuild their own homes instead of filling up ours?
My mum, yeah, she's got a tattoo car. I saw an Albanian going past in a convertible.
Up our street!
Why are you here?
Don't like Kosovans, because they're taking over the English people.
Yeah.
What do we want? Where do we want it? Now!
Are anti-asylum seekers racists?
Yeah, I just bet they are.
Are you a racist?
Yeah, I am, yeah.
White, bright and beautiful. That's it, sister.
I am 38. Actually, I will be in June 39. And I don't know how it seems, how it's feeling to be free in your country. I never had that feeling indeed. Every day you wake up, you start your job or whatever, you go do shopping or whatever you do, you think how to protect yourself if this happened, if that happened. I have friends, British friends, and they told me they get together for Christmas. I would like to get opportunity to meet my mother, my father, brothers, sisters, all us once more.
In 2000 and 2001, the National Front demonstrated twice more against refugees in Margate. They ran candidates in local elections, but failed to win seats.
Just on the outskirts of Broadstairs is the home of world-famous toy manufacturer Hornby Hobbies. Here they make their classic model trains. And another old favourite, Scalextric. Now when I say that they make these things here, I'm lying. In fact, they used to make them here, but not anymore. 600 people used to work in their factory. We all knew someone who worked here. But in the late 1990s, it all came to a shuddering halt. Hornby closed this factory down and moved its production to China. Why? Because it costs far less to employ Chinese people than British people.
When you consider the level of detail we would be able to afford to put onto a model locomotive here at Margate, with the minimum wage rates that are placed in the UK, obviously that is extremely different to that in China. But when we look at the way we've handled that situation by increasing the level of detail on a product and being able to use that change in wage rates to reflect the quality of the product which we can offer the end customer, that's where we see the real importance of our move to China, and that's where we see our growth coming from.
Hornby still designs and markets its products in Britain, but it now pays a Chinese company to manufacture them much more cheaply. They're now making more products and bigger profits, but not many jobs for local people. This is Grupo Antolin, about 2 miles inland from Broadstairs. It's a Spanish manufacturing company, and this is its first ever British factory, set up here in 2001. What they're making here are car headliners. That's the lining on the ceiling of a car. They supply headliners to people like BMW, makers of the new Mini. Grupo Antolin has created 180 new jobs in Thanet, and they wouldn't have come if politicians hadn't given them the grant.
If we hadn't had the grant, I think the company still had to locate in the UK to support customers such as Honda, BMW and Nissan. So chances are we would have located in a situation very close to one of our major customers, probably the North East.
I truly believe that the three town centres will be badly, badly hurt if this development goes through. Thank you.
As our local elected representatives, if you all showed a united front against Westwood development, surely that must have an impact on the event.
Westwood Cross, a huge new shopping centre about 2 miles from Broadstairs. This used to be farmland. Soon it'll all be concrete. And it's going to have a massive impact on local businesses.
I think Westwood is a good idea. I think it will bring jobs to the area. It will keep retail spend in Thanet. We know 60% of retail spend is leaking out of Thanet at the moment. A large part of that will stay in Thanet now.
Yeah, I think it's good that we're going to have shops around here because there's no big shopping centres around apart from like Blue Water and stuff. That's quite far.
I mean, it's all very well if you've got transport, but if you're pensioners like we are and you haven't always got a vehicle, how the hell are you going to get there, you know?
I think it will empty the towns of clothes shops and shoe shops, and it's not going to be really good for the area because who wants to come to a tourist destination when there's nothing left in the towns?
They'll put the small business person totally out of business.
What's wrong with big shopping centres essentially is that they are taking away the heart of our towns. Figures show that in the last 5 years, local shops have been closing down in Britain at a rate of 50 a week. Now that's an enormous number.
I've seen countless out-of-town shopping centres built, countless out-of-town supermarkets, and they have just absolutely decimated every local town centre that they've been built near.
The only people that benefit are the developers, and it's time people realise that they're not doing this for the benefit of the local people. They're doing it to line their own pockets, and that's their only reason for it.
The council say that Westwood Cross is actually going to bring jobs and more money into the area. What do you think about that?
I think that's rubbish because the shops that are going to be out in Westwood Cross are chain shops. They're not shops that are going to have anything to do with Thanet as a local. They're going to be going. That money is going to be going off to big chain stores across the land. It has nothing to do with Thanet whatsoever. And the jobs, well, we've already heard about people who bring lots of jobs into the area. And what sort of jobs are they? Minimum wage slave labour, basically. If that's what you want for Thanet, great. I think it's rubbish.
Now the island is the target of a huge housing programme. Building's going on throughout the southeast of England, but Thanet looks like it will get more than most. Large areas of green space have been earmarked for new building. At the heart of Thanet is an area called Westwood. Much of it still green, much of it open farmland.
This is the site where the 1,100 or so houses are to be built. Been identified for housing in the last local plan, and it extends up to the row of fir trees there, down to the next clump of trees, and all this side of the road down to the pylon by where the tractors are down there.
It's all farmland, is it really?
It's all farmland, yes.
Is it good farmland?
Yes, it's good grade farmland.
There's only one view, and there's only one objection. No to Westwood development.
But does this unremarkable piece of farmland really matter?
It's the thin end of the wedge, I suppose. This probably won't make very much difference to that.
But if this happens every 10 years, in 100 years, probably we'll look back and say, look what happened.
And then it'll be too late.
Yeah.
Piermont Park, Broadstairs' only park. And it's here they plan to build a 2-storey community centre.
And I think it's just another one of these situations where the council have decided that's what they want, and we've got to have it.
It's not really big enough to put a large building the size that they want to put into this small park.
Just want to keep building and building and building and just to completely destroy our little town.
Why do you think the council are proposing to build a new building here?
Self-glory, get their names in the paper, and may I say, wondering about the backhanders.